All right, let's pick up where we left off. The Anti-Imperialist League. Remember, imperialism was the idea of spreading. We were running out of land, right? We had the 5 reasons for imperialism that we talked about earlier. Well, there was a group of people. Good morning. The anti-imperialists that believe that imperialism violates like what America was founded on. You have to have the consent of the governed, or your government's not valid. So when we annex other areas, we're violating like one of the core tenets, the core beliefs of what our country was founded on. Mark Twain, Andrew Carnegie, William Jennings Bryan were all big in the movement of the Anti-Imperialist League. So did Cuba really get their independence? Well, the Platt Amendment said that Cuba was not allowed to enter into any agreements with foreign powers that would endanger its independence. The U.S. could intervene in Cuban affairs if necessary. Cuba must lease Guantanamo Bay for the United States to the U.S. for a coaling station. Today it's a prison, right? Cuba must not also build up excessive public debt. So yes, Cuban independence with some caveats, with some strings attached. So what do you do with a colony once you've taken over an area? What happens to the people? How do they become? Do they become citizens? Are they not citizens? Do they have any say in the government? If I remember correctly, the colonies broke away and fought a war of independence from England because they didn't feel like they had all the rights, but England wanted to tax them, so that whole taxation without representation thing. So what do we do? Well, let's look in Puerto Rico. The Jones Act of 1917 granted U.S. citizenship to anyone born in Puerto Rico on or after April 25th, 1898. So took about almost 20 years to figure out what to do here. It also created a Senate. It established a Bill of Rights for the people of Puerto Rico. And they finally got to elect their, quote, governor or resident commissioner. That was previously from 1898 to 1917, that person was just appointed by the president. In Panama, we had a canal being built. If you look at this little map down here, you'll see that the Caribbean Sea is up here and the Pacific Ocean is down here. So contrary to what you would think looking at a regular map, you actually entered in to the canal here. You go through a set of blocks that would raise or lower your boat to the water level of the next, like this lake. You travel southeast, but you think that the Caribbean Sea or the Atlantic Ocean is to the east of the Pacific, but it's on this little hook. So we had the Monroe Doctrine, which was basically saying, Europe has to stay out of the Western Hemisphere. We'll stay out of the Eastern Hemisphere. The Roosevelt Corollary said the same thing. It was a corollary is kind of an add-on or an amendment, and it just said, hey, if you don't stay out of the Western Hemisphere, we will use our power as an international police force. So basically, in the cartoon, the cannon is the corollary. Speak softly, but carry a big stick. That's kind of the whole idea of Roosevelt's philosophy. Like, we don't need to just know that we're going to act if there's anybody that's going against what we're saying as far as staying out of the Western Hemisphere. In China, here's some actual ads, or not ads, but newspaper articles, newspaper pictures, op-eds, whatever, that depicted the Chinese as really an animal. During the 1900s, there was the Boxer Rebellion, which the natives were hoping to get rid of all foreign influences within their country. It was put down. Secretary of State John Hay proposed the open door policy, which would give all nations equal access to trade in China and it guaranteed that China would not be taken over by any one foreign power. If you look here in the orange is the kind of the trading zone for England at this time. Here's France, Germany's the green, Japan's the purple, and Russia is the red. So people during that time, you're limited to what areas you could trade in. If you're from England, you're only in those orange areas. If you're France, just in the yellow. Hay says, listen, let's open up the country to all people, all parts of the country, to all countries for trade. This will guarantee that none of our allies get too much power in China. Also, if you look at the map, the United States didn't really have a zone. So it was, hey, let's open it up to everybody so we can be a part of this as well. So what is America's new role? Who are we now? This is 40, 50 years after the Civil War. Who are we? A lot of people saw us as kind of the parent caring for a growing family. Soap, have you used it? This is hardly racist at all. No, it is. Are we the world's police officer? We are the world's police officer. The Treaty of Portsmouth kind of showed the U.S. Teddy Roosevelt bringing the Japanese and the Russians together. They were fighting a little war, and Roosevelt was able to help negotiate a peace treaty. He won the Nobel Prize. That's kind of just shows again that it was something that wasn't involving us that we got involved in, kind of as a world leader. We did a big boat tour. We basically took our Navy and traveled all around the world, showing the world and especially in Asia the power of our Navy and not to mess with us. The technology on the boats were absolutely obsolete by the time they returned to the U.S. from this world tour. Also, it did expose some of the issues with the boats, such as horrible ventilation that made it really hard for long distance travel. Dollar diplomacy is the idea of improving financial opportunities for American businesses. Therefore, the U.S. should create stability and order abroad that would promote America's commercial interests. Again, the more stable these Central American governments are, the better it is for the United States, not just as trading partners, but also to be able to keep Europe out from establishing colonies. Mexico Revolution, some of the leaders. Again, the United States is a world leader. We should have a moral diplomacy. We should be the conscience of the world. We should spread democracy, promote peace, and at this point condemn colonialism. Don't let other countries spread. You can kind of see how much money we had invested in Latin America through mining and smelting operations or railroads or agriculture. This is, again, trying to create new markets or stronger markets for American trade. Here's kind of the U.S. world tour during these 20 years where we had troops, where we had sent troops to help establish kind of some strength in these, some stability in these Latin American countries. Here's everything we gained in the Pacific during this time. Again, utmost importance for refueling our boats. And remember, at these times, during this time, these were all run with coal, so they were called coaling stations. One idea is that before the United States intervened in behalf of the oppressed people, this is the Philippines were all under Philippines oppression, and this was dole, like all of the industrial and slavery and more Spanish controlled. And this is what the United States, this is what the people of these countries would look like after we took it over. That's it.